have you not met with them? You said you haven't met with them. Have you met with them? I'll give you one more chance.
My job as the FBI director is to invite all investigative leads. Is the answer yes or no
to whether or not you met with these women who were sexually abused and raped?
Any insinuation by you or any people on your side that I am not manhunting child predators and sex traffickers, just look at the stats.
Patel,
and you talk about cover-ups, man.
Mr. Chairman,
you talk about cover-ups.
And I will take as much time as I
Where
want.
were you during the Obama and Biden administrations when these so-called cover-ups were going on? Why didn't
questions recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, before you joined the FBI, you had very strong opinions about what the FBI was hiding regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In a September 2023 interview with Glenn Beck, you said the Black Book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. In December 2023, you said, let us know who the pedophiles are. Even for a short time after becoming FBI director, in February of 2025, you tweeted, quote, there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. In June, you told Joe Rogan, quote, we've reviewed all the information, we're gonna give you every single thing we have and can. But then suddenly in July, everything changed. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released one video and said that there was nothing more to see. Your July memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, but that you had decided no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That is a quote. I think what happened, Mr. Patel, is that suddenly you discovered that Donald Trump's name was all over these files, and you started a giant cover-up. So you are under oath, Mr. Patel. You just testified to Mr. Swalwell that you did not speak to the president about the Epstein files. To your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak to the president about what was in the Epstein files?
I can't speak for Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So to your knowledge, you don't have any information. The question was, do you have any knowledge? Do you have any knowledge?
I can't speak.
You are refusing to answer the question, so let me tell you that the Wall Street Journal reported that in May, Bondi told Trump that he was in the Epstein files, and at the same meeting said that the DOJ did not plan to release the files. Yesterday, you testified to Senator Kennedy that there was, quote, no credible information that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone else, and that you have, quote, continuously and publicly asked the public to come forward with more information, and we'll look into it. Today, in response to Mr. Massey's question, you appear to say that the survivors were not credible. These are survivors.
That's not at all what I said.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you this in a second, but let me tell you about the survivors, and let's bring them up here into the room. These are women who came to the Hill and testified that they were groomed and raped at the age of 14 and 16 years old, and they called to meet with the president and to meet with the FBI and to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why
anyone in those administrations talk to any of these purported witnesses?
I have some regular order,
every single person to provide credible information.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Washington.
And I'm going to take another couple of minutes.
When you accuse the witness of something, he's allowed to respond. That's how it works.
Listen, he didn't even, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you have always been fair, but this is not fair.
And you will get
this is my time, and he said that the witnesses were not credible.
Seconds of time.
I'm going to get an additional minute of time because that's how much time he took.
You won't get a minute. You'll get some seconds. What we think is under 5 minutes. You don't get to demand how much time you get. That's not how it works.
Mr. Patel, are the victims of the Jeffrey Epstein horrific trafficking ring, are they credible?
Any person with information about ongoing sexual trafficking.
I'm asking you if they're credible.
Ma'am, I'm commenting on the evidence we have. But we have routinely asked for people to come forward with more evidence, and we will look at it. And the evidence that we have was the same evidence that the Biden and Obama Justice Departments had. And they determined, not me, they determined that that information was not credible.
Chairman, he's not letting me even ask my questions.
You ask the questions, he gives an answer. You may not like what he says, but that doesn't mean you get to interrupt
He's not answering
him.
my question.
Mr. Chairman, could we restore the gentlelady 45 seconds so she can
We'll
complete
give her
her question?
additional 30 seconds, which is what I said
I'm
earlier.
going to keep taking my time because
you'll take
here's
the time
thing.
that you get. You get
are
30
not
seconds.
answering the question. The question
I
is,
have. You just don't like the answer.
Are these women credible? It's a yes or no answer.
I have answered the question.
Well,
and
what
I
is
keep
the
telling
answer?
you, I'm the only FBI director that has welcomed new information in this
Okay.
case. This
You're not-
administration is the only one that has welcomed any new information in this
Is there
case.
a yes or no to whether
Present
the
new credible
victims are
information.
credible?
Present new
Are
information.
the victims credible
The victims-
or not?
I'll tell you what happened in the last Trump
Are they
administration.
credible or not? You can't even
Victims
say.
credibly came forward, and you know what happened? President Trump authorized the indictments of
President
Jeffrey
Trump
Epstein.
called
Not
them
Biden,
a hoax.
not Obama.
President Trump
no one
called
else.
the entire thing a Democratic hoax. So
It was in that moment when Representative Jayapal's voice rose above the gavel, when the words, "Are the victims credible?" cut through the chamber like a blade, that the mask of procedure fell away. What began as testimony became theater. What was supposed to be an inquiry into accountability transformed into a moral reckoning broadcast live before the nation. Kash Patel, the former FBI director, sat rigid behind the witness table, his jaw tight, his eyes steady. The tension between him and the Congresswoman from Washington was not merely political, it was existential. The question she asked was not just for him, but for the system he represented. Does justice still recognize the voices of the powerless? Moments like this define the American experiment. Beneath the fluorescent lights of a congressional hearing room, the architecture of government trembles, not from violence, but from truth pressing against its walls. Jayapal's challenge was direct, even furious, a demand to know why survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes were still unheard, still unseen, after years of promises. Patel's replies, measured and defensive, invoked process, data, precedent, the language of bureaucracy. But the tension between them revealed something deeper, the collision between human pain and institutional preservation. This was not just about Epstein. It never is. This was about the endless cycle of outrage and retreat that defines Washington, the performative fury, the fleeting morality, the way power insulates itself from consequence. Every senator, every representative in that room understood what was truly at stake. Not one man's guilt or innocence, but whether the truth itself would be allowed to stand naked in public view. And when Jayapal demanded, "Are these women credible?" the silence that followed said more than any prepared statement. In that silence, the ghosts of 1,000 hearings lingered, the whispers of Watergate, of Iran-Contra, of every scandal that promised transparency but delivered exhaustion. Patel, in his defense, invoked statistics, operations, the manhunt for predators. He leaned on numbers because numbers do not cry. Numbers do not testify, numbers do not look you in the eye and describe what happened when the door locked behind them. And yet, the Congresswoman's fury was not about the data. It was about the humanity buried beneath it. The survivors' stories of grooming, of betrayal, of lives derailed before they began, hung in the air, unacknowledged, unanswered. For a moment, the room became a mirror, reflecting America's most uncomfortable truth, that justice in this country is often proportional to power, that transparency stops where influence begins. The mention of Trump's name, spoken sharply, almost like an accusation, sent ripples through the hearing. You could feel the fault lines shifting beneath the desks. It wasn't just a question of evidence anymore. It was the political gravity of proximity. Who gets named? Who gets protected? Who decides what the public has a right to know? The Epstein files, once promised to be fully released, were now sealed by discretion, cloaked in legal justifications. And somewhere between promises of transparency and claims of national security, the truth was quietly buried again. It is in these hearings that the mythology of American justice is both performed and exposed. Cameras pan across stern faces, microphones flicker on and off, gavels pound for order. But the real story is not written in the transcripts. It's written in the hesitation of the answers, in the interruptions, in the struggle to control whose voice fills the silence. Power, as it turns out, is not only about what can be said, but about what can be left unsaid. As the minutes dragged on, voices rose and tempers flared. The chairman's attempts to restore order were drowned beneath overlapping accusations. "You are refusing to answer the question," Jayapal snapped. "You ask, I answer," Patel replied, his tone ironclad. And through it all, the survivors' names, never spoken yet ever present, became the haunting subtext of the entire exchange. Their stories, once evidence, were now politics. Their trauma, once testimony, was now theater. And that, perhaps, is the cruelest truth of all. In the Capitol, morality is negotiable. Outrage is currency. Each side speaks of justice, yet both maneuver for advantage. To watch this hearing is to watch democracy's contradiction in real time. A government built on ideals, stumbling under the weight of its own self-interest. The question that lingers, are the victims credible, becomes a reflection of something larger. Is the system itself credible? Because when survivors of abuse must beg the government for acknowledgement, when agencies guard the secrets of the powerful more fiercely than the safety of the vulnerable, something sacred has been lost. The hearing, chaotic as it was, exposed that loss in full light. It showed that truth in America is not buried in conspiracy. It's buried in procedure. In the endless deferrals, the memos, the mimetic excuses that push justice 1 inch further from reach. By the time the chairman gavelled the session to a close, the room was exhausted but unchanged. Patel leaned back, expression unreadable. Jayapal gathered her notes, eyes still burning. Around them, the ritual continued, the shuffling of papers, the murmurs of staffers, the cold machinery of governance resuming its rhythm. But for those watching, for those listening, something had shifted. Beneath the spectacle, the deeper question had been asked and left unanswered. What does it mean when the government tasked with uncovering truth begins to fear what it might find? What does it say about us when the defense of no new evidence becomes an excuse for silence? And how many hearings will it take before the word justice means what it was meant to mean? The American people have grown used to the performance. But every once in a while, a moment pierces through the noise. A moment like this, when power flinches, when truth nearly escapes. Those are the moments that matter. Those are the moments the Capitol Watch was made to remember. Because justice does not die in darkness. It dies in daylight when those in power decide the light is too bright. But as long as someone is watching, as long as someone refuses to look away, the truth still has a chance. This was not just another political clash. It was a reminder of what is at stake when the nation stops demanding answers. The survivors, the secrets, the hearings, they all converge into one simple, unrelenting truth. America cannot move forward without accountability. This has been the Capitol Watch. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and subscribe because the fight for truth is far from over.